Yes, Alan Joyce, welcome to Sky News. Now,
thanks, Ticky. It's good to talk to you.
100 years. This would have to be the hardest hit in 100 years of Qantas?
It is. I mean, we are the oldest continuous airline in the world, and this year should have been a year of celebration. We were buying new aircraft, we were recruiting people, we were talking about Project Sunrise flying from Sydney and Melbourne to London non-stop. It was a very exciting year, a very positive year, record profits, and then COVID-19 hit and everything changed. And it's devastated the entire aviation industry worldwide. This is the worst year in aviation's history in 100 years.
Now, obviously you shocked the market yesterday with your announcement that 6,000 workers were going to have to leave. Now, these are jobs, some of whom have been at Qantas for many years. These are jobs that are never coming back. Is that right?
That's right, Ticky. I mean, this was a devastating announcement for all of us at Qantas. The fact that such a successful company doing so well had to change track overnight because of COVID-19. And we have, unfortunately, 6,000 jobs that won't come back. That's similar to a lot of airlines around the globe. It's 20% of our workforce. Air Canada are saying 50% of their workforce will go. Air New Zealand, 30%.
And they're never coming back because we will never fly again in the way that we were flying?
So it's going to be so long before we recover. So IATA, the peak body for the aviation industry, is saying that potentially 23, 24 will get back to 19 levels at best. So we have the 6,000 we have to make redundant and we have to be honest with those people, give them the redundancy and let them go and find new jobs. But we also have 15,000 people that will be stood down for some time. And we're working with the government on trying to get an extension of JobKeeper or some other alternative to help them. Now, those 15,000 jobs, we have to get back in the air. They are the ones that we're waiting for the demand to come back, the borders to open, so we can start flying those aircraft again.
Among others, the unions are saying, why did you have to move ahead of a decision by the government, which we know is looking at working out something specific for the aviation sector?
Well, you know, JobKeeper is always designed to actually support jobs that are going to come back. These 6,000 jobs are not going to come back. JobKeeper or an alternative mechanism will support the 15,000 people that are stood down. We always thought it was better for us to be honest with the 6,000 people, not lead them on, not use JobKeeper in the wrong way, and actually tell them, we're giving you the redundancy. There'll be over 600 million in redundancy, and you can find other employment instead of waiting and not having certainty. I've been talking to our employees every week in a big town hall, a virtual town hall, and people are saying, let us know what's going to happen, give us that certainty. We really need that certainty, and we did that yesterday.
So what are you asking for what would you like to see from the government for the sector, for Qantas and the sector?
So I've had in the last day or so a great conversation with the Prime Minister and the Treasurer, and we've said that he says he recognises transport and tourism are going to need help, particularly with the international borders probably closed for some time. And the government, through the review of JobKeeper, are working on what that looks like. So we'll continue to talk with them, we'll continue to ask them to help our employees, because this money goes to the employees, not to the company. We're not trying to get money for ourselves, we're trying to get our people to be helped as they're stood down for extended periods of time.
But will it be like a JobKeeper?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of ideas, and the Treasury and the Department are working on it, and there is some sort of income support for people that are not going to have a job and not going to have an income, and I think that's what our request would be. For what comes out of that design process, I don't know.
And the timing of it?
So we know JobKeeper goes till September. In our case, we have 8,000 of our people working in July. We hope to get to 15,000 by December.
But in terms of an announcement from the government, when you're expecting something?
So they said the review will take place in July, and we should know by the time JobKeeper is finishing what happens to the employees post that. And we'll have a large number of employees that are going to be stood down all the way through 2021.
Just in terms of what this is doing to your business on a weekly basis, you're burning, what, 40 million a week or something?
We are. So one of the things we've done is we've been very successful in getting that cash burn down. It's a lot of money, a hell of a lot of money. But compared to an American Airlines, they're $800 million a week. Lufthansa's burning around $400 million a week. British Airways, $300 million. Singapore 200 million. So the 40 million, a lot of money, but we were able to borrow a lot of money because of the strength of our balance sheet. And last night we raised $1.9 billion in new equity. It was massively oversubscribed.
This morning?
We could have raised 4 times that amount. And that will allow us to have a runway that gets us through to 23, even if none of the borders are opening up. But we're optimistic about the domestic borders.
Yes.
We think it's only a matter of time before they open up. And there's huge pent-up demand for domestic travel. Last week, Jetstar did a sale. It was the biggest sale in their history.
So you would want now, domestically, borders to open,
absolutely,
as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
Notwithstanding Victoria's problem that they've got at the moment.
Well, we always knew we were never going to get to suppression, and I think what's very clear is that Australia's done a great job, and we have to make sure, and it has to be done right, and we have to make sure that we do open up the borders to safeguard the million jobs that are in tourism. Those jobs, Qantas can survive till 23 or longer. A lot of these little companies can't. They have months, they may have a year. We need to get the tourists back in this country, and there's a huge opportunity. People in Australia love travelling. They won't be able to travel internationally for some time. That big outbound international market will travel here in Australia, and we are confident in our forecast. We think we can get our domestic business back to 100% of pre-COVID levels by the next financial year 22, as the borders open up.
So here's the question. Obviously, you've led the world, really, as a business leader in things beyond business, for example, gay marriage, things like that. Now, I'm asking you a question about the virus and international borders. We've just seen today that Brendan Murphy, Chief Medical Officer, he's moving on. But he has also said today that really, until there's a vaccine, he can't see international borders opening. Can that really work?
Well, I think, the government has been talking about the potential of bubbles, which I think is a great idea. So with New Zealand, so nobody has an issue with New Zealand. Their infection rates are lower than ours.
But New Zealand isn't going to solve your problem. I mean, if these international borders are going to stay shut for 2 years, aren't we going to have to, as Australia, at some point say, let's open up and we will deal with this virus, now that we've got the capacity to deal with it? So
the dilemma for us is that if you open up and there's a massive influx of people with COVID-19 and that forces a severe lockdown again in Australia, we'll go backwards and we won't get the domestic business, which is a big part of our employment, a big part of our profitability.
But this time in a year, will there be people weighing up that choice?
Well, there could be, but I think there's a win-win. If you did bubble by bubble, so you start with New Zealand, and New Zealand is a big market. It's the second largest tourism market into Australia after the Chinese, and we are the largest tourism market in New Zealand. So you open that up, it is big volumes in tourism.
You mentioned the Chinese there. Now, there are a few other things going on with tensions in the region, a big interest in Chinese influence in our Pacific region. Isn't this an opportunity for Australia to have more influence with the Pacific? What about tourism in the Pacific? It's COVID-free.
Yeah, I'd be very keen on that. We have big investments in Fiji. We own 46% of Fiji Airlines. We've had people employed there in revenue accounting and other areas. It's a great market to travel to. We always thought it could be the next Bali, encouraging people to go there.
Do you know if the government's keen on this as well?
I think the idea is if the bubbles open up, that you will be able to get the people that have tight border controls, can manage COVID-19, and we are comfortable that we don't have a transmission risk coming into the country. And I'm hopeful it'll be bubble by bubble. New Zealand first, maybe the Pacific Islands then, and then maybe some countries in Asia that have brought it under control.
Yes.
That's the way to get this started again, to get this rolling again. And that's a sensible way of minimising the risk, because the last thing Qantas wants, the last thing the tourism industry here wants, is the domestic business to go backward. That would be a false dawn. That would be a false saviour, and we'd be worse off if that happened.
The other part of the domestic business, of course, is Virgin Australia, and we need two airlines in this country. Now, overnight, we've just seen one of the bidders, Cyrus, pull out. I mean, do you think that's a reaction of a reality check on your announcement yesterday about how hard it's going to be?
Well, everybody is probably looking at things through the Virgin lens, and a lot of times we're running our own game. We have a massive business with a lot of employees that has been significantly affected by COVID-19. We do what we need to do to protect those jobs and get our business back and operating. At the end of the day, we always thought there was going to be a second airline in Australia. The market's too big, the market is too important for that. We knew that Virgin would have somebody bidding for it to come out of administration. We're happy with competition. It's made Qantas really good. And for the last 10 years, you know, it's like winning the championship every year for 10 years. We were winning against that business, and I've no doubt with what we will do and how we will manage our business, with the great brands we have, with the great people we have, we will compete whatever comes out of administration, and we will continue to have that track record of winning that we've had for the last 10 years.